you have found it. It's the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast video for Monday evening, the 26th day of July 2021. And we haven't said this often lately, but it was a pretty hot day today. Above the average, something we haven't said often for daytime highs of late, but 87, pretty popular number across the region. 87 here locally. 87 is also in Cleveland and Akron and New Philly and Wheeling. Pittsburgh was 88, and Columbus did hit the 90-degree mark this afternoon. Well, it's been a warm summer, especially when you look at both the highs and the lows. And just a reminder that in the changing climate, the nights are especially warming pretty fast in the summer season. The daytime highs represented by the orange bars on this graphic. The blue bars are the overnight lows. And with the exception of December, the most pronounced warming for those overnight lows has been during the warm season, May, June, July, August, and into September as well. The daytime highs rising the fastest in December, then September, and then May, and then in fourth place is January. The most muted warming during the day have been in the months of February, March, kind of late winter, early spring, and also late in the fall season. So November has seen the least amount of warming, with the exception of March, in the last 30 years for those daytime highs. All right, it was warm today, but it wasn't especially muggy. We saw dew points drop today from the mid-60s down into the mid-50s for this evening, and since the air is drying out some, it's not going to be super oppressive tonight. Temperatures will drop into the lower 60s in most of the area. Maybe even some of the cooler sheltered valleys get down to 59 or 60 overnight. Active weather to our south, to our northwest today, and actually in the west, and they had, at last check, and this was a couple hours ago, they had a half an inch worth of rain in Death Valley, California today, where temperatures dropped into the 70s. Now, of course, Death Valley this summer has routinely seen temperatures in the 1-teens and 1-20s, so 70s had to feel remarkable out there today. So it's the monsoon season in the southwestern U.S., and so showers can occur even in the deserts at this time of the year. They had some problems with rain and severe weather in Las Vegas over the weekend. All right, let's hop across the globe. The Tokyo Olympics going on. You can watch them right now on 21 WFMJ, of course. And the weather story in Tokyo so far in the Olympic Games has been the heat and humidity. But now we're dealing with a tropical storm. If you watched NBC Nightly News at 6:30, you saw Lester holding the umbrella. He was getting whipped around pretty good by the wind and the rain. This isn't the strongest tropical system in the world, but it is having some impacts, although it could have been a lot worse. This could have become a typhoon, basically the eastern hemisphere's version of a hurricane, same thing. But thankfully this kind of petered out, and so it's a tropical storm with 45-mile-per-hour winds. Nepartak, the name. It makes landfall on Tuesday to the north of Tokyo. They're not going to see a direct landfall around Metro Tokyo with this, but the landfall will be off to the north, and then the heat and humidity will certainly resume for the Summer Games. All right, this evening we have a decent pass of the International Space Station. It's not going to be super high. The maximum elevation is not up around 90 degrees straight above our heads or anything, but 26 degrees above the horizon. You can check out the space station appearing in the northwest sky at 10:34, disappearing a little over 4 minutes later into the Earth's shadow in the eastern sky. I'll put out a reminder on social media. This evening we haven't had too many evening space station passes of late, and again, even though we will have brighter and higher ones than this, crystal clear out there this evening too. Check this out. All right, as we go into our Tuesday, again, pretty much a rerun of today. It'll be hot. Not that bad in terms of the humidity, though. Our in-house model here is pretty aggressive with this next little trough moving through the Great Lakes and tries to spin up a couple of showers as early as Tuesday evening. Not ready to buy that at this point, but I think as we head through the overnight, we might get grazed by a couple of showers with that weak trough moving through. We'll then be in between systems for most of Wednesday. This will turn out to be a fairly sunny day, with temperatures returning to the mid-80s. Then, some interesting things to talk about by Wednesday night into Thursday. I think Wednesday afternoon and evening, there will be a complex of storms that form somewhere up across the Midwest, and then overnight, dive south and east. Now, does it dive through Indianapolis and Cincinnati, or does it dive through Detroit, Cleveland, and Youngstown? Well, we don't know that yet. But it's going to be possible that we'll be impacted very early Thursday morning, or more so late Wednesday night, by some band of showers and gusty storms. So pay attention to the forecast for the next couple of days, because we'll have a better idea as to where this is going, certainly, as we get a little bit closer. But it'll be possible that we have some bumpy storms in the wee hours of the morning, and then with the front still off to our north and west on Thursday, we're going to have to allow for showers and storms to move through again at just about any point. I don't think it's going to rain all day or anything like that, but this will be a pretty unstable and steamy air mass and a pretty decent front coming our way. Behind that front, it turns more comfortable by Friday and the weekend. So SPC today did account for that possibility of what's called an MCS, mesoscale convective system, moving through the Midwest, diving through the lower Great Lakes. And so we're included on the day 3 severe weather outlook, even though we're not expecting severe weather during the day Wednesday. These severe weather outlooks account for a 24-hour period, 7A one day to 7A the next day. So this would account for whatever happens Wednesday night and before 7A Thursday morning. I suspect we'll also be in that low-end risk for severe weather when the day 3 outlook becomes Thursday, when they put out their products overnight tonight. All right, the dog days of summer, though, are not coming anytime real soon. You know, a lot of people think of late July, early August as the lazy, hazy days of summer. There's not much going on. It's pretty much just baseball season and NFL training camp. And basketball's over and football really hasn't started yet. And the weather tends to be pretty similar every day. Well, this year, at the end of July, start of August, all the heat's still going to be out west. That ridge, a week ago, it looked like this was threatening to come far enough east late in July that we get in on some of this heat. But now it's going to center itself over the middle of the country and will be more impacted by this troughiness moving through eastern Canada, the northeastern U.S. And so, yeah, it's going to be hot for a while in Dallas and Denver, but not around here. And that's going to be the case through the first several days of August. And so, no surprise, today the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook featured pretty decent odds of a below average period around here. What about beyond that? Let's look at the European, what we call the weeklies, real quickly this evening and take a look at what they have in store for August. Like with any modeling, you got to take this with a grain of salt, but we like to look at it to kind of try to sniff out maybe what some of the longer range models are seeing. These European weekly models are put out twice a week, basically, and they go out 46 days. So we can get into real fantasy land here and really talk about the weather all the way through Labor Day if we wanted, but let's focus on the first couple weeks of August, and it's cluing in on that trough across the northeast through the end of July, first few days of August. Then as we go deeper into August, so this is 9th, 10th, 11th, you know, the signal becomes a little more muted, as you would expect as you go out a couple of weeks. But the overall look to this still has a ridge over the southwest. And the lines are still oriented as such over the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, that you don't see any evidence on the modeling here that the ridge is going to park itself over our region and give us a bunch of late summer heat. So that's the European weeklies, the American CFS, Climate Forecast System model. Kind of a similar-ish idea here. Trough dominates through the first handful of days of August, but then as we get into mid-August, you know, the signal becomes kind of muted, but it certainly does not have any hint of any sort of ridge trying to park over the east. I mentioned on social late last week, I think it was on Friday, that sometimes weather patterns are very, very persistent, and it becomes a feedback loop. The hotter it gets, the drier it gets. The drier it gets, the hotter it gets. And the hotter and drier it gets, that's where the ridge likes to set up. And it just becomes a feedback loop. And so the ridge, no matter what the models might show a few weeks ahead of time, that ridge just ends up being where it wants to be, which is this summer over the Pacific Northwest, the Rockies, and maybe out into the Plain States, not in the eastern U.S. And just don't see any evidence that this pattern is going to undergo some sort of large-scale change, at least through the first couple of weeks of August. No evidence right now. Now, you know, any model when we're talking 3-4 weeks out, again, you're going to take it with a grain of salt. So we'll see if there are any hints as we get closer that the models want to change their mind. But at this point, I would bet on persistence until the atmosphere proves it can do something else this summer. All right, that's it for Weather Geeks tonight. Have a great night, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday.